Welcome to GRE. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. An alarmist calls for a housing price crash of 80 to 95%. We'll listen to it. This city's rents are up 26% annually. The rise of dopamine culture and money maxing has made its way into personal finance. Then an invitation to join us for a special event today on Get Rich Education. What if I told you that one of America's strongest cash flow real estate markets is also becoming the new brains and brawn behind AI? That city is Memphis, believe it or not. And September 30th, we're going to show you why the smart money is paying attention now, along with an investing opportunity you won't want to miss. Join me, Terry Kerr, and Matthew Van Horn of Mid-South Homebuyers, the largest turnkey company in Memphis with more than 6,000 homes under management, for a free live webinar, the likes of which I've never done before. We're going to look at what billions in new investment could mean for jobs, housing demand, neighborhood appreciation, and your portfolio. Everyone who attends live will also get exclusive access to the best deal terms Mid-South has ever offered. Reserve your free seat at GetRichEducation.com/Mid-South. Again, that's September 30th. Don't say we didn't tell you. Save your spot at GetRichEducation.com/Mid-South.
You're listening to the show that has created more financial freedom than nearly any show in the world. This is Get Rich Education.
Welcome to GRE. From Naples, Italy to Naples, Florida, and across 188 nations worldwide, you're listening to one of America's longest running and most listened to shows in the real estate world. This is Get Rich Education, and I'm Keith Weinhold. Yes, the very founder of this snaggle-toothed operation right here. I'm a longtime real estate investor myself, erstwhile writer for both Forbes and the Rich Dad Advisors, serving on the Forbes Real Estate Council. You can also see my work in the USA Today and Business Insider. I'm the creator of Real Estate Pays 5 Ways and the Inflation Triple Crown. Oh, after all that, really, I'm just a shaved mammal with slack jaw. A highly leveraged hominid of the landed gentry. Right before I discuss the housing price crash of 80 to 95%, keep in mind that most people think that if you're in real estate, then you've got to be either a realtor or a landlord. I am neither a realtor nor a landlord. People also think that it takes tons of money. It does not. Now, you could pursue no money down strategies, but that takes some time to learn and skill to develop. Now, I was a landlord in the early years of my real estate investing, but after about 6 years of that, I hired a property manager and never looked back, therefore keeping this mostly passive. A 20 to 25% down payment on a carefully selected residential rental property includes ones that today can still have purchase prices below $200K, that's purchased in a geographically investor-advantaged market. Okay, that is the center of what we do here, because when you own property this way, now you've got the margin where you can pay a property manager to enjoy the 5 ways that you're paid mostly passively. Be a savvy borrower. Now, when you're between deals and accumulating capital to add the next piece of property to your rental portfolio, that's where you can flip and do the opposite in the short term and be a real estate lender for perhaps an 8 to 10% stable return. That's what I do, rather than getting 3.5%, which is the going rate today, in a high-yield savings account. So be a lender between deals in the short term, where you're a savvy borrower long term. Now, the lead analyst at Housing Wire, and he was also a past guest here on the show, Logan Mohtashami, he brought this 80 to 95% housing price crash media piece to my attention. It's in the form of a meta reel that got a lot of attention. Let's play it. I mean, this type of nonsense circulates out there, It's not founded on anything substantive, and this just absolutely does not serve anybody. You've got to take this type of thing as entertainment, but it's being presented in a serious, informative way, and just listen to the basis for the claim.
The United States housing market is about to collapse 80 to 95%, which means that homes that were worth 1.5 million are going to be worth 300,000. The reason is simple. The US housing market has reached its most unaffordable level in history. People cannot afford to buy homes. And if people cannot buy homes, the market must correct. The question is how hard the market is going to crash, not if it will. According to CPI and price history data, this is predicted to be worse than the 2008 housing bubble. We are going to see prices drop 80 to 95%.
A housing price collapse of 80 to 95%. This is from a platform called Hayden Trades. It has got to be the worst example of trying to steal attention rather than serving people. Gosh, don't even make 20 or 50% crash predictions anymore. Go for far higher, I guess. He says it is according to the CPI and price history data. Now, this doesn't even make sense. Now, the low affordability mentioned, that part is true, and this is what's slowed home price appreciation. But here in the late 2020s, there is more upward pressure on home prices, not downward. Inflationary pressure, which is rampant, that is poised to raise replacement cost because a home is a bundle of land, labor, lumber, concrete, copper, and energy. America's best job markets face land and regulatory constraints. That pressures prices upward. And regulations are not easily repealed either. There's a large reservoir of sideline buyers that still want to own, and single-family home construction is woefully insufficient, keeping the supply down. Indeed, there is more upward pressure on home prices, not downward. This coming inflation wave that's exacerbated by war is, unfortunately, or fortunately if you're positioned, it's poised to widen the K-shaped economy where winners win bigger and losers lose more. The boat is leaving the dock. Are you on it? The distance between the boat and the dock just keeps increasing, and eventually you won't be able to make the leap, the jump from the boat to the dock. Now, in the near term, because we're approaching the fall season, when you hear stats about median home prices, note that prices are lower in autumn and winter than they are in spring and summer. It happens pretty much every year. Now, why is this? Well, one reason is that a lot of people don't think about is simply the fact that smaller houses get sold in the winter compared to the summer. And why would this be? This is because families with school-age children who need larger homes get their deals done in summer months before school starts. That is one reason why median home prices are higher in the summer than they are in the winter. When you look at a long-term price chart of homes, this is why you see peaks each summer and dips each winter. Now, investors like us, we're not buying so much for school-aged children considerations, but this phenomenon affects the median prices that you see quoted in most any market. That is how that works and why. Homes present better in the summer too. Green lawns, leaves, flowers, and natural light improve curb appeal. Some say, buy when the snow is flying, sell when the flowers are blooming. Shortly, I want to tell you about the city with rents that are up 26% year over year, and there's no end in sight to those rent increases either. But first, there's a significant national real estate trend. Now, a lot of times the discussion about the rental market centers around the level of rents or the vacancy rate, and those metrics sure do matter. But what about tenant retention? That is the renter mobility rate. How long do residents stay? Well, renter mobility is down, down, down. They are not moving around. That's the big trend. Tenants are staying longer. Renters are waiting longer to buy homes than prior generations did. I mean, a lot of people are beginning to wonder if their starter home will arrive before their first Social Security check does. The share of renters planning to move within 3 years, that has plunged since 2019 from 57% then down to just 37% now. This is according to a national survey from the New York Fed. 57 down to 37% that plan to move within 3 years. Yes, this means that even after the pandemic waned, renters plan to stay in place longer. Everyone is staying put longer. And what exactly is keeping all of those moving boxes in storage? You guessed it, buying their own home is more difficult to afford. It's kind of like an obstacle course where the down payment is waiting at the finish line, which is a long ways away. It's like an ultra marathon. This decline in renter mobility, this is obviously good news for income property owners and landlords because vacancy and turnover are our greatest expenses. People are paying more. It's interesting that many are staying in put because a lot of renters often pay 3 to 5% annual renewal increases, especially in single-family rentals. Among apartment dwellers, there are currently more move-ups than move-downs, people willing to spend a little more. And part of this is because a lot of people have just simply given up, completely given up on buying a home, choosing instead to fritter away their money on DraftKings parlays, Kalshi predictions, meme coins, burritos whose delivery fees cost more than the burrito, and a dozen forgotten subscriptions quietly feeding on their checking account. Yeah, a lot of people have just given in. Besides falling renter mobility, there is also falling homeowner mobility. One reason it has fallen is due to the well-documented mortgage rate lock-in effect, but mobility is down among both groups, among renters and homeowners, for a few different reasons. Like I mentioned in previous shows, America is aging and older people move less. Remote work means people don't have to move for a job, and housing inventory remains limited. This means that there are few attractive alternatives to move into, whether you're a homeowner or a renter. Those are some reasons as to why mobility is down for both groups. And the New York Fed analysis shows that renter mobility, it is especially weak among that subgroup that believes that they will never own a home. I mean, this group of people really isn't moving. They are staying in place even longer. This group that believes that they will never own a home. And this is a skew toward lower income renters for sure, but even upper income renters are staying longer. I own a lot of single family rental homes myself, and I'm just thinking now, I can't even remember the last time someone's moved out. It might be over a year since anyone has moved. The average renter's perceived chance of ever owning a home, that has fallen. And this is significant for investors, okay? That percent of renters that ever hope to own a home has fallen from 52% back in 2015 down to just 35% last year. 52% down to 35%. The amount of renters that think they'll ever own a home. Both single-family rental and apartment renters are staying longer. This is both types, and it's not because these renters stop wanting homes. About 2/3 say that they would prefer to own if they had the money to do so. This is substantial. The drop in American mobility rate, I mean, that part is actually decades long, and this seems to catch people off guard. A lot of people falsely believe that people are moving more often, And that's something I've touched on before. This deeply hurts certain industries like moving companies, furniture stores, and yes, real estate agents. All these groups of people have got to be wondering, where did everybody go? The answer is nowhere, apparently. They are not going anywhere. So the bottom line here, with this lack of mobility, is that renters feel locked out, owners feel locked in, and landlords feel locked up with their tenants staying longer. Although this is good news for landlords and investment property owners, there is one thing to be careful of amidst these longer tenant stays. And that is, well, say you buy a rental property with an existing tenant in place that's been there for a while. It's more likely then that that tenant is paying below market rent. And why would that be? Well, because generally the longer a tenant stays, the more likely it is that the previous landlord gave them a break on the rent. Now, why does that happen? Well, landlords can get lazy about bumping up the rent, and see, what's really going on is that the previous landlord, perhaps the person you bought the property from, they themselves bought the property at a much lower price years ago than you did today, and therefore their mortgage payment is lower, and therefore the lower rent was able to cover their mortgage payments. So they weren't too worried about it. But if you're buying at today's prices, well, then you cannot stand for yesterday's rent amount, and that's why it's more likely that you need to bump up the rent to market rent. Although national rent growth is pretty flat, San Francisco continues to rewrite its record book. Per Zumper's National Rent Report, San Francisco's one-bedroom rent is up 23% year over year to $4,180, and two-bedroom rent is up 26% to over $6,000, $6,020 for the median rent in a two-bedroom San Francisco apartment. The first time they've ever topped $6,000 there. Yes, the city continues to lead the nation in annual rent growth, and even ahead of New York City for two bedrooms. That's because this is where the growth of the AI industry has collided with a supply-constrained housing market. High demand over low supply. I mean, you might remember that San Francisco was hit especially hard by the pandemic, but its bounce back has been amazing. Even beleaguered San Francisco office buildings are filling up again amidst the AI boom. Now, the Bay Area's previous tech boom back a while ago, that was led by tech giants like Facebook, Apple, and Google. All right, that boom was largely concentrated in these sprawling suburban office parks in Silicon Valley. Now, Silicon Valley is not in San Francisco. It is, depending on just where you're going, perhaps 60 minutes south of San Francisco proper. But see, this time, the city limits. San Francisco finds itself as the epicenter because a lot of the newest, biggest names in tech, like Anthropic and OpenAI, they are headquartered in the very same city neighborhoods that were struggling with occupancy just a few years ago. And see, a big part of what's going on, and there's a lesson in this for you, is when a lot of other cities built, like Phoenix and Austin did, San Francisco did not. And what's interesting is that the publication, the San Francisco Standard, it reported that, get this, last November, a two-bedroom apartment overlooking Alamo Square was advertised for $5,000 per month. Now, that was already 30% above San Fran's median two-bedroom rent at the time. But despite that fact, so many people attended the open house that the property manager had to divide them into two touring groups. Qualified applicants were then emailed and told to submit their best offer of rent. Okay, basically an invitation to a bidding war here. One tech worker and her roommate bid $5,100. Management responded that they had reached the second round and invited them to increase their bid again. and they declined to increase their bid, and they lost the apartment. The same article reported that an even more extreme Marina neighborhood example, the winning renter offered substantially above asking price, 6 months upfront rent, and twice monthly professional cleaning. What kind of prospective tenant offers their landlord professional cleaning? I've surely never had it happen. That and bidding wars are now taking place for San Francisco rentals. Could an AI surge and a lack of supply make anything like that happen in your rental market? That remains to be seen, and probably not to that extent. I've got more for you straight ahead, including the trend of money maxing. I'm Keith Weinhold. You're listening to episode 620 of Get Rich Education. What if you got your mortgage loans the same place I get mine? You sure can at Ridge Lending Group, NMLS 42056. They provided GRE listeners with more loans than anyone because Ridge specializes in investment property. They'll help you build a long-term plan for growing your real estate empire with leverage. Start your pre-qual and even chat directly with President Chaley Ridge. While it's on your mind, start at ridgelendinggroup.com. That's ridgelendinggroup.com. Let me ask you something. If you've worked hard to build wealth, is your money positioned to actually support your goals? A lot of accredited investors leave capital sitting in cash because it feels safe, but inflation and missed income opportunities can quietly erode its value. Freedom Family Investments offers Freedom Notes for investors seeking structured income backed by real estate. It's a straightforward approach built on real assets, not speculation. And full disclosure, I'm an investor myself. What I like is that their team walks you through how it all works so you can decide if it aligns with your portfolio and income goals. Every investment carries risk and nothing is guaranteed, but with a track record of consistent, on-time investor payouts, they've built real credibility. Go to freedomfamilyinvestments.com to book a clarity call or text FAMILY to 66866. That's FAMILY to 66866.
This is Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki. Listen to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold. And the reason I respect Keith, he's a very strong, smart, bright young man.
Welcome back to Get Rich Education. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. The rise of quick-hit dopamine culture has definitely hit the personal finance world, and this is not a good trend. For a lot of Gen Zers, who are those aged 14 to 29, sports gambling is increasingly a part of what they think is financial planning. A recent survey from the wealth management platform Betterment shows that 26% of Gen Zers, more than 1 in 4 then, consider sports gambling as part of a deliberate long-term financial strategy. If you think that's bad, more than half of Gen Zers, 52%, say they've rerouted funds from investment over to sports betting in the past year, and that's versus just 24% of all Americans. Yes, the rapid legalization of sports gambling means it's never been easier to bet your whole paycheck that the Mets are going to lose 100 games this season. When a prediction market or a sports book starts to feel like a retirement strategy, we have a problem. And this is congruent with the rise of dopamine culture across all of society, where we've gone from playing sports, then to watching sports, and now to gambling on sports. In the kitchen, it's where we've gone from home cooking to leaving and getting fast food to ordering Uber Eats. It's where media has gone from film and TV to streaming shows, and now with dopamine culture, it is watching reels. It's how shopping has gone from first high street shopping, then to Amazon, and now to the TikTok shop. It's how communicating with people. It's gone from handwritten letters to sending emails to Snapchats. It's how we've gone from newspapers to breaking news to rage bait. As far as what we listen to for music, this rise of dopamine culture, it used to be vinyl records and then Spotify playlists, and now it's trending sounds. It's gone from finding love to casual dating to infinite swiping. How about the way we look at and share photos? It's gone from photo albums to camera rolls to Instagram stories. And how about the way we access information? With this rise of dopamine culture, it's gone from libraries to Google to Chat GPT. And that brings us to money maxing. Okay, yes, here in our finance world, the rise of dopamine culture has led to this. Yes, that is apparently a word now. Money maxing. It's all one word with two X's. It sounds like something invented by a 22-year-old who's got 3 credit cards, 3 hoodies, and 1 fork. Okay? But money maxing, that is one of the newest personal finance trends spreading across social media. Now, the maxing stuff and that whole suffix, that first became popular through terms like looks maxing, which means trying to maximize your physical appearance, whether you're male or female. And now people are sleep maxing, health maxing, career maxing, and I guess it was just inevitable until they were money maxing. And what it really means is optimizing your financial life so that every dollar works harder for you. That could include using a high-yield savings account, earning credit card points and rewards, automating your investments, negotiating bills, and eliminating wasteful spending. In other words, it's just another internet reinvention of financial responsibility. I mean, your grandparents just called it being sensible. Now, I do like the fact that young people are talking about money. I mean, as we've covered before, financial education is desperately needed. Schools will teach you about the parts of a biological cell, but surely not how to read a mortgage statement. So you can graduate knowing that mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell while believing that a tax refund is free money from the government. So, directionally, money maxing is good, but see, it usually only focuses on one side of the equation. That's the problem with money maxing. It only focuses on spending less. And here at GRE, we take a different approach. The old financial advice is live below your means, and GRE's philosophy is grow your means. You should only live below your means earlier in your financial life when you sort of have to and you need to form capital for investments. But grow your means so that you can have the means to do things. I mean, that is the point of financial betterment. Long term, financial betterment is certainly not sustainable by saving money by getting a haircut at home, only watching men's fast pitch softball at the Moose Lodge because it's free instead of going to a Major League Baseball game, saving $120 on air tickets by adding an extra layover on your trip itinerary, or a buy one get one free deal on Hillshire Farm bacon. Now, of course, you shouldn't waste money. If you're paying for 6 streaming services and you're only watching one, well, cancel the others. If you carry a credit card balance at 24%, surely extinguish that financial dumpster fire. But you cannot shrink your way to an extraordinary life. There is a floor beneath how little you can spend. There is no ceiling above how much value you can create for others. You can cancel your coffee. You can stop eating out. You can turn down the thermostat until your living room feels like a meat locker. But eventually, there is nothing meaningful left to cut. That is the weakness in traditional money advice. It treats personal finance like a sinking ship, and it just hands you a bucket. Growing your means is building a bigger ship. The most powerful form of money maxing is not squeezing another 2% off your grocery bill. It is increasing your income. It is acquiring productive assets and creating systems that pay you repeatedly. I mean, saving $20 is fine. Creating another income stream can continue for years. This is the difference between subtraction and multiplication. Most money maxing advice really isn't different than that conventional advice. It's living in the world of subtraction. Cut this, cancel that, buy the generic cereal, drive across town to save 12 cents per gallon. Hey, congratulations. You just spent 40 minutes of your finite life to save $2.80. Real wealth is built through multiplication. Multiply your income, multiply your skills, multiply your relationships, learn a new system, multiply the number of people you serve with rental property, and then multiply your money through productive assets. Now, this does not mean to spend recklessly. Growing means is not permission to inflate your lifestyle every single time your income rises, but it means directing more attention toward expansion than deprivation. Ask yourself a better question. Instead of asking, how can I save another $100 this month? Ask, how can I create another $1,000 of monthly income? That very question activates a completely different part of your brain. Now, maybe you develop a valuable skill. Maybe you negotiate your compensation. Maybe you start a business. Maybe you acquire an income property. Maybe you turn knowledge, intellectual property, or an audience into a recurring revenue stream. You start looking for leverage rather than looking for coupons. And leverage, that is the real engine of what money maxing ought to be. Leverage means accomplishing more with less of your personal effort. And there sure are a lot of forms. You can leverage other people's time. You can leverage systems and technology. We're going to talk about a system later here. You can leverage media, where one message reaches thousands or millions of people. And in real estate, you can leverage other people's money. You can scale. A few weeks ago here, I discussed 4 different types of scale. Real estate investors can get them all at the same time. If you remember, they are financial leverage, like with the 5 ways. There's operational leverage. There's geographic leverage. And finally, replication. You use a relatively small down payment to control a much larger asset. While your tenant pays you rent, that income helps cover the property's expenses and mortgage, and over time, inflation tends to lift rents and property values while your fixed rate debt becomes easier to repay with diminished dollars. I mean, that is real money maxing right there. In fact, GRE's Real Estate Pays 5 Ways framework might be the ultimate money maxing system. One property can produce cash flow. It can appreciate. Your tenant can gradually amortize your loan for you. You get the tax benefits, and inflation can transfer wealth from the lender to you through your fixed rate debt. 5 simultaneous financial benefits attached to one asset. Oh, and we're going to take that and compare that with saving 50 cents on toothpaste. Now, both things technically do improve your finances, but they don't even belong in the same zip code. Now, none of this means that every leveraged property is a good investment. In fact, leverage amplifies outcomes. A well-selected, properly financed property is going to accelerate your wealth creation. But a bad deal with thin reserves, hey, that can accelerate your introduction to an attorney. Money maxing still requires judgment. You want durable income, adequate liquidity, responsible underwriting, and you want to have enough reserves to withstand the inevitable surprise. Because every rental property eventually introduces you to something that is leaking, squeaking, or perhaps refusing to pay. The goal is not to optimize every dollar so aggressively that your financial life becomes fragile, and really that is an important warning about all forms of maxing. Optimization can go too far. Someone might transfer money among 5 banks to chase these tiny promotional yields and open 12 credit cards for bonus points and then Monitor every purchase with the intensity of airport security. Okay? I mean, technically, they're optimizing their money, but they're also turning their life into like an unpaid accounting internship. Your money should create freedom, not become another demanding employer. Effective money maxing focuses on the big levers first. Get some big wins, increase your earned income, own those productive assets, use good debt prudently, reduce taxes legally, protect yourself against catastrophic losses, maintain liquidity, and then optimize the smaller expenses. Do not spend 3 hours clipping coupons while ignoring a poorly structured $400,000 mortgage. You do not congratulate yourself on saving $9 on lunch while leaving $50K idle in an account that earns almost nothing. So we don't obsess over credit card points while carrying a balance, because paying 24% interest to earn 2% cash back is not money maxing. That is like arithmetic getting mugged in an alley. And there's also an important difference between looking rich and becoming wealthy. Social media rewards visible consumption on things like cars, watches, first-class seats, rooftop dinners. Actual wealth, that's something that's often invisible. It is the rental property quietly producing income. It is the ownership stake compounding in the background. It is the tax strategy that's never going to appear in a photograph. And it is the growing gap between what you earn and what you need to live. The person displaying the most wealth can have the least. The person saying very little might own the building. So yes, embrace money maxing. Know where your money goes. Eliminate the waste. Negotiate recurring expenses. Automate your good decisions and make your dollar purposeful, each dollar. But don't stop with living below your means, because that is only financial defense. Growing your means is financial offense. Saving money can make you more secure. Owning productive assets, that's what can make you free. The highest form of money maxing is not becoming the world's most efficient consumer. It is making the transition from consumer to owner. Own businesses, own equities, own real estate, own assets that produce value while you sleep, travel, or spend time with the people that matter to you, because your time is limited, and yet your appetite for generic cereal is also limited. But your ability to create value, acquire assets, and grow your means, that is far less limited. Live below your means if you must, but don't stay there. Grow your means. That is true money maxing. And the number one reason that people don't acquire wealth, do you know what it is? It's that it simply does not occur to them that they can. That is what Brian Tracy said. That is so incredibly simple, and it's true. If you want a money max, you need to have a great system. Let me tell you about a system called the 7-Figure Solution. Now, you've been listening to me weekly for almost 12 years here, which I'm immensely grateful for. You've been earning money, investing well, and here with the 7-Figure Solution, you're going to be able to finally see how it all goes together. It's about making sure that your real estate and other assets appropriately fund your retirement in a way that gives you protection against market downturns, a tax advantage pool of liquidity, the death benefit of a life insurance policy, and actually introduces you to a new form of leverage, all at the same time. The liquidity is key because this is where a 401k or IRA limit you. Those vehicles have taxes and penalties if you want to use those funds early, and this does not. But the 7-Figure Solution, it's not just for retirees. In fact, our own in-house investment coach here, Naresh, uses something like this, and he's in his 30s. It also gives you a significant tailwind during your investing career. Integrate the 7-Figure Solution the GRE way, where we have a conscientiousness about leverage and cash flow. And in this case, part of it is how to prudently leverage a life insurance policy. When it's time to tap that policy's cash value, you take what is a policy loan, not a withdrawal, because you're borrowing against your cash value, and therefore you're using the funds in more than one place. That's the leverage. And then the IRS does not tax loan proceeds. And this reminds me of a billionaire borrowing against the value of their stock rather than having to sell any of those assets, and yet this can be done tax-free. It's similar to what you can do with the seven-figure solution, even for non-billionaires. It is buy, borrow, die. This leverages an indexed universal life policy, and there is the right way to do this and the wrong way to do it. Part of the seven-figure solution is that your cash value can have an upside ceiling and loss protection on the downside. That's really something that you'll only care about more as you're closer to retirement. And there are some mistakes to avoid here. You don't just want to set up the seven-figure solution off of a website. And it's based on products that you might have heard of from companies like Nationwide and Mass Mutual. I strongly encourage you to learn more, see how it all goes together, and learn how the seven-figure solution compares to other vehicles like a Roth IRA, 401k, and even a 721 and 1031 exchange. This is very much about you being able to picture your future. You've been building your real estate portfolio either from your investment coach or on your own. This is how the puzzle pieces finally are all going to go together. I am cordially inviting you to join us for a special live event, The Seven-Figure Solution. It is co-hosted by our own GRE investment coach, Naresh, and Haven Bridges Jared, who you heard from on the show with me last week. By attending live from the comfort of your own home or from anywhere, you can have your questions answered in real time. It is this Thursday the 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Most people spend decades building wealth, and then they lose far too much of it because the retirement pieces were never designed to work with each other. So you're going to see how real estate, taxes, insurance, and retirement income can fit into one coordinated strategy, helping you grow and protect your wealth, access capital without immediately selling your assets, and potentially avoid losing hundreds of thousands of dollars to taxes unnecessarily. So it's not just another collection of disconnected financial tips. Really, it's your opportunity to finally see the entire retirement picture and understand what might be missing from yours. It's complimentary to attend. The longer you wait, the fewer options you could have. Decisions made today can affect your wealth for decades. Don't wait until retirement day to discover that your plan had expensive holes in it. There are some moving pieces here, so it's especially helpful that you attend this one live, and that way you can have any questions answered in real time so that you really understand. And you might have been one of thousands of listeners that have attended our property webinars before, and they are important to building your portfolio, but this one could very well be more important in seeing your big picture, seeing your retirement, and seeing that your heirs aren't left with a giant tax bill too. You can reserve your seat now for the seven-figure solution at grewebinars.com. Again, that's grewebinars.com. Until next week, I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.
The preceding program was brought to you by your home for wealth building, GetRichEducation.com.